Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our Impact Career Series from the Marshall Institute here at the London School of Economics. We are excited to be returning after our summer break. And as you can all see, my tan is still very much on point. We're also excited after our break because for the very first time, we're going live to you in on both LinkedIn and Instagram. So we've come back from summer and have gone multi-platform, which we're all very excited by. For those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Carlos Miranda, and I am a practitioner in residence here at the Marshall Institute. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've started several businesses, and I have been lucky enough to work with many of the students at the Marshall Institute for many years. And it's out of that work that we've decided to kind of start this Impact Career Series, where we explore how professionals really build purpose-driven careers. A lot of times in ways that cut across sectors and don't necessarily follow a linear path. We are sharing their stories, including pivotal moments, challenges, and lessons learned along the way. So whether you're just starting to explore a purpose-led work or you're knee-deep in it, our aim is to hopefully you watch the show, you hear these people's stories, and you leave with kind of some insight and inspiration. Since this is a live conversation, we would really love to hear from you. So feel free to drop us questions or reflections in the comments at any point. Look at that, it worked. We were worried that that graphic wasn't going to come on as soon as I said it, but we did it. And we'll try to bring any questions, comments, concerns that you might have up in the discussion if we have time. But before we dive into today's conversation, since we've taken a break, I'm going to take a minute to reintroduce the Marshall Institute for many of you. The Institute exists to improve the impact and effectiveness of private action for public benefit. At the Marshall Institute, we believe that now more than ever, we need to invest in tomorrow's impact leaders and social innovators. Those people who are really kind of committed to embedding social impact at the heart of their work. Now, we do this in three ways. Number one is through our education. We offer a portfolio of transformative programs taught by leading academics and expert practitioners. I was going to say like me, but then they told me not to say that. But yeah, like me. Number two, entrepreneurship. We scale the impact of social ventures through our 100X Impact Accelerator, which if you haven't checked out, you definitely should. And last but not least, through evidence and exchange. We aim to advance research and insights that truly deepen and understanding and kind of really inform action. And today, I'm delighted to welcome my good friend, Hector, who is the head of Americas Philanthropy at Google.org. Hector oversees a $150 million annual investment portfolio that supports interventions that expand access to education, economic opportunity, and make communities more resilient. He also works to ensure that emerging technologies like AI benefit people across society. His career spans investment banking, domestic policy, and international development. He's worked in a lot of different things. He's a really interesting guy. Before moving, obviously, into what he's doing now, we'll hear all about this. He does a lot of things beyond Google as well. He has been recognized as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum, is a German Marshall Fellow, and serves on the boards of organizations including Hispanics in Philanthropy, the Latino Community Foundation, and the Hispanic Federation. So without further ado, let's welcome today's guest, Hector. Hey, buddy.
Be with you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to our show, man.
I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you here. So originally I was going to start talking to you about being based in Miami, and you are based in Miami, but you're dialing in from Geneva. So I'm still going to ask you my Miami questions.
Yeah, forgive my my hotel room cheek background, but that's all we got to work with right now.
I mean, I was going to say something, but I didn't want to put you on the spot. So I'm glad you went there. I'm glad you went there.
The finest European hotel background I could find for you.
Oh, fabulous. Well, we're honored. So my question that I really wanted to ask you before we dive into it is Miami your favorite Will Smith song?
Oh man, I will say that it's likely one of the ones that the only one that comes to mind if I think of Will Smith singing. But I don't know that it's necessarily my favorite Will Smith song.
Oh, come on. I can think of many. Getting Jiggy with It. Come on, dude.
That's true. That's true. Maybe your
That's
song
true.
game is much better than mine. But I will say, whenever I'm inviting new people to Miami, or if I'm ever picking somebody up from the airport for the first time and their first visit to Miami, that
Yeah.
is 100%, 10 times out of 10, the song is going to be playing in the background.
No, you kind of have to. And he's not even from Miami. But
Mandatory. I know.
mandatory.
I
It is
know.
mandatory, right? 100%. I'm glad that we had this discussion because my feedback from the LSD afterwards is going to be like, this was great, but did you have to talk about Will Smith? So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to bringing it all full circle.
We should have done that song as a welcome song into this podcast. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. All right, on it. I'm making notes. All right, we don't have a lot of time, and I'm very grateful to have you on the show. I did a very short introduction. You've done a lot of things in your career. I'd love for you to take us kind of back to the beginning. Talk to us a little bit about your professional journey, because as noted, you've done a lot of different things. So talk us through in the Reader's Digest version of you go to college, what do you study, and what do you do between then and now at Google?
Yeah, maybe I'll even take one step back and acknowledge that I come into this context and come into this conversation as the son of immigrants from Venezuela who came to the US pursuing opportunity, and truly watching firsthand my parents build community, have homes open to them as newcomers, and be ingrained into the fabric of American society really taught me a lot early on. It taught me that the world oftentimes isn't fair, but we all have agency to do something about it. Going back to the essence of your question, kind of walking you through it chronologically, I went to undergrad at Florida International University, one of the largest public universities in South Florida. And shortly after that began my career, kind of my big first job in the professional world was in investment banking at Oppenheimer. And that really gave me a foundational discipline in numbers and the mechanics of capital. But I quickly realized that while I was good at the work, I wasn't being fulfilled by it, and I wanted to do more than move money around. I wanted to move the needle on people's lives. I shortly thereafter had the opportunity to do a fellowship in the United States Congress for a local member in South Florida, which really opened my eyes to the dynamics of public service. And I saw firsthand how government can directly impact and touch the lives of people. Helping someone resolve an immigration issue or get healthcare wasn't abstract policy. It was a very real lifeline for many, many Americans. And through that work, I also got to focus on very real, tangible needs and real, tangible scenarios and situations, from working on earthquake response in Haiti to other bilateral issues that congressional members were touching because of their diaspora communities that their congressional offices represented. It became real, that the scope and the footprint and the impact that we had that we can touch through the U.S. government. That kind of led me into then spending a season in Japan. I worked for the State Department based at the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo, working on economic diplomacy and tech policy. And that truly exposed me to that intersection of tech, global economics, crisis response, and dealt with everything from cybersecurity issues to natural disasters. I actually was in Japan in 2011, shortly after the big Tohoku nuclear power plant meltdown, earthquake, tsunami, and ended up working for a while on behalf of the U.S. government on bilateral aid between the U.S. government and the Japanese. And that really showed me how interconnected our world really is. And Google somehow felt like the next natural step here. by a lot of happenstance, a lot of luck, right time, right place. Ended up at Google, where I got to combine the rigor of capital, the mission of government, and the innovation of tech. And over the past decade, I've been in the philanthropic space at Google, where I've helped steward over nearly $1 billion in philanthropic capital across the Americas and the world, scaling programs that have trained millions and millions of job seekers, that have increased incomes by sometimes 35, 40% for the people that we've engaged with, and helped place over 500,000 people into new tech-enabled careers. So really looking back through the narrative arc of my career, it's always been through the through line of using the levers of capital, policy, and innovation to expand opportunity.
I mean, that's an amazing answer. And it also shows, what kind of why the show was created in the first place, because we work in a space, you and I, so many of our colleagues work in spaces where it's not like, oh, I'm going to go to medical school and then I'm going to be a doctor, right? A lot of the times our careers are very much, it's like 3 steps in one direction and 1 step in a different direction. It's not necessarily like A leads to B leads to C. And it's amazing to kind of hear your trajectory and where you are now. So I want to learn more about what you do at Google. So obviously you've given us a very nice overview in terms of what you've done to date, but tell us more about what your day-to-day role at Google. And I have no doubt that no 2 days are the same. Is that right?
That is true.
Yeah,
that's true. I think no 2 days are the same. My day to day, when I think about my role at Google, someone actually gave me this definition of philanthropy early on in my career, has really stuck, which is, in philanthropy, especially in corporate philanthropy, which it's a little bit distinct from a foundation or the like. In corporate philanthropy, your role is really about being a bridge between Google's resources and the communities that need them most. When I think about that role, I think about bridges often being 2 ways, right? Bridges are never kind of a one-way flow. They often have flow in both directions. So yes, there is a role for us to be deploying capital, deploying resources, deploying the best of Google to help support and solve really critical challenges across the world. At the same time, we're also supposed to be an input, right? Many times the proximity that we have to people that are solving really audacious problems on the ground, on the field, enable us to understand and get a glimpse into how technology, how platforms can be adapted and leveraged differently to help augment the impact that they're having in communities. And oftentimes we're able to leverage those insights and bring that feedback back into the business, bring that feedback back into the engineering teams, and rejig how we deploy and build resources and tools in a way that those tools work for more people. So, in my role leading our Americas Philanthropy team, that means that I'm often balancing strategy and execution. One moment it might be reviewing strategy around one of our multi-million-dollar funds, like our AI Opportunity Fund, which is aiming to bring AI competencies and AI skills to more workers around the world. And the next, it might mean being on the ground with a nonprofit in Miami or in Mexico City or Sao Paulo, listening to what's really happening in their communities, how they're leveraging artificial intelligence, what are some of the sticking points that they might need additional support with. And at its core, my job is to make sure that the capital that we're deploying annually doesn't just fund projects, but actually unlocks opportunity, shifts systems, and builds trust.
No, I mean, that's amazing. You brought up AI a couple of times already. And one of the things that I'm really interested about is, obviously, as Google, you talked about the resources of Google. Google is at the forefront of a lot of emerging technologies, particularly AI. How do you see philanthropy shaping kind of the I can't even say that word, equitable use of these tools? I have to say it really fast or else it doesn't come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated answer, I think. AI has a dual nature. AI, I would argue, is the most powerful tool of our generation potentially not just of our generation, but of human history. And it's not neutral, right? At the end of the day, it's a tool. It can augment. Tools augment. They augment strength. They can augment the best in humanity. They can also augment some things that are not so great. But yeah, these tools are not neutral. If left unchecked, it could definitely widen inequities. And philanthropy has that unique role to play in steering it towards an equitable place. And I think there's a handful of levers that we can leverage, right? Funding public good applications. So AI to diagnose diseases, to predict climate risk, or to support education and workforce. There is AI to support accountability. So philanthropy can underwrite research advocates and watchdogs that can ensure AI's safe, transparent, and ethical deployment. And also the lever of empowering communities, which means training and equipping marginalized groups to use AI and not be displaced by it, right? At the end of the day, my philosophy on AI adoption is, folks are not going to get replaced, at least not anytime soon, by AI, but they're likely going to get replaced by folks that are really savvy at using AI and at incorporating AI into their day-to-day. So how do we ensure that all groups can have an equitable shot at leveraging this tool that has tremendous economic and societal potential, right? And how do we ensure that we're getting the right inputs into those building the next generations of these tools so that they can be in tune and responsive to the needs of society? So if I'm casting a vision, philanthropy should be the risk capital for society, funding what governments and private capital is too slow or maybe too risk adverse to be able to fund. And our responsibility is to make sure that AI serves democracy, dignity, opportunity, not just shareholder value. And ultimately, it can enhance the human experience for everyone, not just a select few that control it. And the lens that I usually look at this through, particularly because we do so much work around AI and the implications on the future of work. I'm often thinking about what's the future of work angle to this whole thing. And for me, that means keeping a sharp eye on AI as it intersects with work, as it intersects with workforce issues. How do we use AI to boost efficiencies and eliminate repetitive or perhaps dangerous or unwanted tasks in the day-to-day?
Looking ahead for the next, let's say, 5 years, what skills do you think will be essential for kind of the next generation of impact leaders to have? Yes, AI may come in and help us, augment things, make things easier, do away with certain things, but what skill sets do you think kind of will be essential, again, for that next generation of impact leaders, the kind of people that are listening to the show and doing masters at LSE?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think probably one thing that's abundantly clear to me, and I think it should be abundantly clear to all of us, is the rate and pace of change is unlike anything we've ever seen before, right? I often reflect on how, it took humanity, human civilization, like a million years to get to the agricultural revolution, then another few thousand years to get to the industrial revolution, then another few hundred years to get to like this technological revolution that we're going through right now. And now it feels like it's changing on a weekly, if not daily basis with the leaps and bounds that we're making technologically. So that to me indicates the essential nature of adaptive leadership as a core skill set, right? The challenges ahead are going to be unpredictable, and leaders will need to thrive in ambiguity and crisis, whether that's a pandemic, a climate disaster, or AI disruption. So that framework and that mentality of adaptive leadership, I think, is quite important. Cross-sector fluency. I think the next generation of leaders is going to have to be bilingual across sectors, be able to speak in the language of finance and capital, of tech, of policy, of society and the arts and culture. Impact is built at the intersection of all of these. And I think being able to hold the tension of these cross-sectoral fluencies is going to be critical. I think equity mindset. Equity is not just a buzzword. It's a lens. Leaders who don't embed it into their decision making will miss the mark and won't be building truly for everyone. And I think the best companies and the best, the people that are going to win the AI race are going to be the ones that can have that inclusive lens to them. And maybe the last one I'll highlight is something around resilience and community. Impact is a marathon, and leaders need stamina, but they also need a circle of people to keep them grounded. And burnout is real, but community is the antidote.
That's amazing, and that's a wonderful answer. So if you could distill that down to one piece of advice, like let's say that you say one thing that you want everybody that's listening to this, watching this, to remember in a year's time, what would it be?
Maybe the importance of community as a safety net. I think growing up in an immigrant household where community literally housed us and fed us, that really taught me at an early age that no one succeeds alone. So invest in people, because relationships often outlast transactions.
Excellent answer. I would have also accepted the fact that Miami is Will Smith's bet song.
That was actually going to be my second answer.
Oh, good.
You gave me two options. Yeah.
Hector, listen, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your story, your insight, kind of your wisdom. One of the things, I'm very lucky to have you as a friend and someone in my life, and someone who's a member of my community, and someone who's been there for me. And I'm just really grateful to you. And I think that you've given everyone that's watching this show and the entire kind of student body at the Marshall Institute and the LSE at large kind of some stuff to really think about. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the great conversation.
Well, if you haven't already, share any final notes that you might have. We'd love to kind of keep the conversation going. If you have any other kind of questions for us, let us know. We might bring them up in a future show. Before we wrap up, just a couple of reminders for you that you can obviously subscribe to our newsletter. There it is. Just scan any one of these QR codes. You can, 1, subscribe to our newsletter for events, research, and thought leadership. 2, you can explore all of our programs, and I would really encourage you to do so. It's particularly our executive MSc in social business and entrepreneurship. And last but not least, again, I'd encourage you to learn about our 100X Impact Accelerator, which is really our initiative to support social ventures with the potential to impact 1 billion lives, which is our aim. You can catch up with this series anytime you want, and all this content on the Marshall Institute LinkedIn, as well as our YouTube channel, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And finally, our next episode will come to you live on Tuesday, the 16th of September, and we'll be joined by Hannah Taiji, who's an EMSBE alumni who works at the intersection of sport, investment, and social impact. She helps the Canadian Premier League football clubs explore how they can contribute to youth and community well-being. So it's going to be a really interesting and kind of very different discussion. So if you're interested for sport for development, cross-sector careers, or just curious about how purpose plays out in kind of unexpected places and ways, make sure you join us for that conversation again on Tuesday, the 16th of September. Thank you for being with us as always, and see you next time.